I think it is a power play to an extent from Salah to see if the club will back him over Slot and maybe get Slot fired. It is showcasing very clearly how bad things must be behind the scenes if he is coming out publicly and saying this.
We back like Indiana, and what a weekend, not a buen dia for Mikel Arteta. Unai Emery does Arsenal once again, proving that spite is the rocket fuel of human motivation. Liverpool have a worse week than the metaverse. Oh, Manchester City go Showtime Lakers. Tottenham make love, not war, on themselves. Crystal Palace crack the top four, rejoice, and Everton are somehow the only team in football to go fifth for a moment and have no one ask if their Champions League charge is for real. And to break it all down with joy and wonder, live from New York City, if it's not the Crown Prince of Harrogate himself, it's Mr. Rory Smith.
For once, Rog, you've made a US sports reference that I understand because I was there to watch it. I know what the Indiana thing means.
Yes, God bless, we were in a bar in the great city of Boston together with James Horncastle and a ton of incredible human beings at 1 o'clock in the morning to watch it all go down. And Raw, a week on the east coast of the United States. What's been the highlight?
The highlight was finding a full selection of non-canon chocolate oranges in Duluth's Market on Newbury Street in Boston. That was the unquestioned highlight.
By the way, you at GFOP sending them in from everywhere. Marcus Geis, big love to you, in Alaska, found a stack in his. I do believe it's like one of those fishes that get into a pond somehow, the Chinese fighting fish, and destroy all other fishes and just take over the natural chocolate ecosystem. Terry's chocolate oranges are suddenly everywhere in America.
They are. I saw a video actually. I think a listener sent me a video on Instagram of someone finding a chocolate orange and treating it as a weird British food and being, delighted and amused by the fact that it's in the shape of an orange. That's the joke. But then for some reason, and I genuinely don't understand why, eating it like it was an apple.
Yeah,
that is bad for you. That's going to break your teeth.
By the way, that's genuinely the most American thing I've ever heard. Taking a chocolate orange and being like, America! That's how Kenny Powers would eat one. You go in, I do notice a little mid-Atlantic on us. Your accent's changing. You've been here 5 days.
Been here 5 days, started to influence me. I will get home and I will be more Yorkshire, Rog. I will get back.
Thank God. You just snap back to factory settings.
Absolutely. Full reset.
To stop being a bastard to everyone again. I feel like myself. By the way, we've done a lot in a tiny amount of time. The draw we experienced in a sold-out Metropolitan Theatre in New York City Saturday night. One of the joys of my year in Boston. I love that city. A sold-out show at the Roadrunner. That was some night, I will say. But above all, I loved having you and James Horncastle wrapping your heads and minds around our cities, because that is what is going to happen en masse during the World Cup. I think 2 million people expected to descend upon New England. 2 million are coming just to New York City. To watch you guys fall in love with both places, it's been magnificent.
Yeah, well, obviously New York is... There'll be a lot of people coming for the World Cup who have been to New York before, or certainly feel like they've been to New York before because you see it so often in movies and on TV. Boston I was last in 20 years ago, I think.
When you starred in the movie The Departed?
I was, based on my life. I think it was 20 years ago I went to Boston for a few days. And it was a really pleasant surprise. Boston will be a great World Cup city. I'm really confident of this, that it has all of the right... Whatever they do in terms of the host committees and the fan fests and all that, that is part of it. But I think what makes a great World Cup city is partly like topographical. And kind of the way the city's laid out. And Boston has big open spaces. It's got nice, kind of low-slung, windy streets. It's got a vibe. It's got neighbourhoods that people can kind of relax into and blend into. It will be a great World Cup city. I think the same about Philadelphia. Which I was in Philly in the summer, and downtown Philly during the World Cup will be an awful lot of fun.
I will say I felt the same. I mean, you and I went into the quite incredible Liverpool-Boston bar, the Phoenix Landing, on Saturday to watch the game. It was like, honestly, it's like I'd walked in with like a real Liverpool celebrity into that quite packed bar. It's like I walked in with like one of the greats, Roy Hodgson or Martin Skirtle himself. It was really lovely to see you face to face with the audience you speak to on a weekly basis. But you're right, walking around Boston, everywhere I was, and it is a stunning city. It makes my heart soar. I did think, oh my God, like in 185 days' time, there's going to be an Englishman pulling down his pants, firing a rocket out of his anus right there. And it felt magnificent.
There were just so many places that Scottish people could fall asleep drunk. I think that's the best thing. That's what you need. That's what you need.
That's a great selling point. That's exactly right. These streets will soon be covered in football and wonder and just random Scottish vomit. And it's can't bloody wait for it. By the way, before we get into it, talking about the World Cup, don't miss this exclusive limited time ticket offer. Bank of America has teamed up with Visa to offer new Bank of America cash rewards card holders a chance to purchase up to 2 FIFA World Cup 2026 tickets. Get the details at bankofamerica.com/card FWC26. But Raw, let's start with a toast. And I want to raise my third first Michelob Ultra of the day to Wilfried Nancy, the French manager who just moved from Columbus Crew to lead mighty Celtic after 3 quite inventive, creative, dynamic seasons over here in MLS. And I've got to know Wilfried pretty bloody well. In his time here. He's a deeply soulful, quite inspirational human being. Celtic fans who want to know about his rise from an under-14 coach here should find our interview with him from last year in which he talks to his relationship with Thierry Henry and his own truly innovative philosophy, the kind of forging steps that he's taken, driven by a really buccaneering football philosophy at the heart of it, and a really empathetic, this is why I love him, a really empathetic leadership style in which he deems, this is his quote, impossible is nothing. And that is surely going to be tested at a Celtic in freefall chaos since Brendan Rodgers left. He lost his first game at the weekend, Wilfried did, but he only had about, I think, 4 minutes maybe on the training ground with his players. I'm fascinated to see whether his move will be a one-off or whether it will trigger really what Miguel Almiron's did when he moved from Atlanta to Newcastle on the playing side, a sign that big European leagues now see MLS as a legitimate talent pool in which to pluck coaching talent. That could be deeply significant because coaching, self-admittedly, within the league, within US soccer, has been the Achilles heel of our football culture. The level of it has been poor. Is that changing? We have languished. We really are a stagnant backwater in terms of European coaching. European coaching at its best is about trans-border, cross-pollination of ideas and human beings. We've had very little of those. So may Wilfried be the first of many and be seen in time as a statement about MLS's rising quality. Say bon chance, Wilfried. Learn, grow quickly, mon the hoops.
Yeah, your good friend Simon Cooper, Rog, in Soccernomics, talks about the network effect of football, which I think is really important. That the reason that Western Europe and South America for a long time, a little bit different now because of the economics of the situation, the reason that they were able to advance so quickly was because you can take ideas across borders. So the countries and the leagues and the teams that thrive are the ones that are most closely tapped into that network. And you're right, through Almiron and then Diego Gomez at Brighton, we've started to see MLS become tapped into the kind of transfer player network of European soccer, which is where that is the engine of everything. And that is what drives things, and that's good. But you need to get those coaches in as well. So, for Wilfried Nancy, it is important if he does well at Celtic, if he is seen to be of a level where he can thrive in Europe, then teams will start to look at MLS for coaching appointments. We saw the same after Postecoglou in Japan. Suddenly, not only were there a raft of Japanese players that came to those leads in Europe, those sort of secondary leads, but people were like, well, actually, yeah, why wouldn't you appoint a coach from the Japanese J League? There's nothing wrong with it. There's no reason not to do it. The problem I have, Rog, is I'm a bit torn because I really want Hearts to win the league title in Scotland, because that would be the one piece of footballing joy I get this season, is Hearts winning the title. I am slowly but surely transferring all of my affections onto Hearts. And that win at Celtic Park was very, very important for a team that had stumbled a little bit. But if Hearts were to become the first Scottish team, not named Celtic or Rangers, to win that title in 40 years, it would be a genuinely joyous thing for Edinburgh, or certainly for half of Edinburgh, and I think for Scottish football as a whole.
Godspeed. We've covered a lot of ground from America, France, Scotland, English human beings firing rockets out their down belows. And we've not even got to the football yet, Ro. I will say, I for one cannot wait for Bruce Arena to take over Manchester United. That, I think, is really what we all just dream and yearn for, especially people who really, really hate Manchester United. But big announcement from Men in Blazers World Headquarters today. Just in time for the holidays, we launch our official Soccer's Coming Home collection on shop.meninblazers.com. A lot of dots in there. It's hoodies, it's crew necks. I'm wearing one myself. Scarves, all anchored in our limited edition red, white and blue kits. Partnered with our great friends at New Balance to pull these beauties off. Inspired by some of the classic US designs over the years. I must say, Raw, even though you and I were the two models for the merch photo shoot, they are simply stunning. Check it out now on the shop. Let this collection spark the flame of American hope and passion for next summer. Soccer's coming home.
You can tell how good the stuff is because me and Rog look good in it. That is not testament to me and Rog. That is testament to the merchandise itself.
I normally just do hand modelling, to be candid, but to the football, and let's start in Birmingham. Aston Villa 2, Arsenal 1. What? It's not happening again. It's not happening again. It's not happening again, is it? Let's go way back through the mists of time to the beginning of the weekend, 7:30 a.m. East Coast, early doors, first against third. That quite resplendent muscle at Arsenal, 18 games undefeated, all comps. Face up to their jilted ex, Unai Emery, who has Villa all turned around. Remember, this was a team that failed to win any of their opening 6 Premier League games, but they'd won 8 of their last bloody 9, and they knew that they tested and tortured Arsenal in seasons past. But Arsenal, really, the challenges are suddenly all internal. We've talked all season about the infinite squad depth that they've built, but at centre-back attrition rate, at spinal tap drummer levels. They had Saliba, they had Gabriel, they had Mosquera injured, and the only centre-back amongst the substitutes was a 16-year-old young Marley Salmon. Arteta rolled Hincapié and Timber in the middle. Return cult hero Ben White was at right-back. Raw. Villa Park's been a fortress. I think just one loss in the last 25 Premier League home games going back all the way to last season. And they seized the impetus from the off. They took the initiative. They lulled Arsenal onto them. They were ready to break the press. Ollie Watkins thrashing the best chance against an alert David Raya on 10 minutes. And as talented as Timber is, and Hincapié undoubtedly is. I mean, it's an experienced footballer. Centre-back partnerships need reps and chemistry. And they just did not have it.
Yeah, that's the problem. It's not that they're bad players. It's maybe not even that they're worse players than Saliba and Gabriel. It's that they're less familiar with each other. They don't have that telepathic understanding. And crucially, I think that you have to include the goalkeeper in that Raya is less familiar with their work. He hasn't played behind that centre-back partnership beforehand. That breaks down those bonds just a little bit. So whilst you wouldn't say that anybody involved played badly, they maybe don't have the kind of aura and authority that you get when you have a more kind of regular presence at the back.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, ultimately, the anchor of the team is the three, the goalkeeper, the 2 centre-backs. And if there's an iota of doubt between them, and inevitably there had to be, it sows that seed in the whole team. You know, they sit back just that extra foot. They don't charge forward with the same abandon and confidence. And Villa were probing that from the off. And on 36 minutes, pouncing on second balls, charging forward with menace, a ball in, and Matty Cash snuck in between Eze and Calafiori, launching himself at the ball. Oh, God bless Cash, Rizza's favourite Premier League player, and cooked a stunning shot of power and precision to David Raya's legs, 1-0. Raw starting to earn back a little bit of the anger he's taken from Tottenham fans for his heavy tackles over past years, Matty Cash.
Yeah, and become a bit of a goal scoring right back as well. Everyone's favourite Pole, Matthew Cash. A brilliant finish and a play. I mean, it's his 3rd of the season, which is sort of indicative of the fact that he is becoming an offensive weapon for Villa in a way that you maybe don't associate with Matty Cash.
God bless. Matty Cash is up there with Lech Walesa, founder of the Solidarity Movement, former favourite Pole. Yeah, I guess Casimir Dana, and probably Lewandowski are in there. They're all coming back to me
Pope
now.
John Paul II.
He's in there. He's got to shout. The Pope's got to shout.
Pope John Paul II would not have scored that goal.
You don't think?
No.
He was a goalkeeper, wasn't he?
Exactly. He might have saved it.
Yeah, he would. Definitely would. He definitely would have let himself get nutmeg. But fascinating to watch in that moment how Arsenal would respond. 8 clean sheets on the bounce. I remember those days. Then you lose Gabriel and Saliba. And this was just the 4th time since the start of 23 that Arsenal had neither of them in the starting lineup. And there was a direct correlation between that And the reality that they've had just one clean sheet now in their last 6. They try to assert themselves. Everything went down the right. On the left, this was just, is it the third time I think Martin Odegaard and Eberechi Eze had started together? And honestly, I love Ebbs. I adore him. But he really looked lost in that first half. Villa able to smother the right side, cut off the potency known as Mourinho as a result, and comfortably, I thought, Raw, keep Arsenal at arm's length. Eze, a bullion, but Eze on the left looked like, well, really like baby left in the corner. It is going to be a conundrum with Odegaard back to solve that.
Yeah, just the complication is, and it's something we don't think about when teams sign players first up, is they need to work together, just as defences are built on partnerships. It's true in attack as well. So Eze's a fantastic player and Odegaard's a fantastic player, but that doesn't automatically mean they can immediately get the best out of each other. And I agree, I think in that first half they looked a little bit adrift. No one was quite clear which angle of attack they were supposed to be taking. I wouldn't say Villa looked comfortable, because Arsenal is so threatening that you can't look comfortable against them. But Villa looked like they knew how to handle what Arsenal were throwing at.
Yeah, and Arsenal's last loss, I looked it up, in that first half, you already felt like the Ides of March. It was at August 31st at Liverpool, so long ago, that it was back when Liverpool was still good, Raw. It was eons. Also, back when Aston Villa, bizarrely, seemed terribly, terribly poor. And Arteta had seen his boys down 3 times this season. He knew that this is an Arsenal that can persevere. They'd come back 3 times, 2 draws, 1 win. Made immediate changes at half-time. Gyökeres off the bench. Leandro Trossard on for Mourinho and Eze. And Arsenal immediately won their first corner, pinned Villa back. And within 8 minutes, parity, felt in the moment order restored, Trossard charging down to lash in, some Saka caused slop. And the way he reacted in that moment when you watch that goal, barely a Warby Parker celebration, just get that ball back to the line. In that moment, you felt the mindset was just, okay, let's go and do what we do. Let's go and win this.
Yeah, it felt very Arsenal. You know, they made the changes. Once again, the depth, the variety they've got on the bench gets them out of a tricky situation. And look, being 1-0 down at Aston Villa is the sort of challenge that champions have to face. That is the sort of thing that happens. Other teams are allowed to be good. And Villa are probably the form team in the Premier League. Arteta goes to his bench, makes the changes. It has an immediate impact. I mean, the rise of Leandro Trossard this season, a player who I think most people would not have been surprised to see leave Arsenal in the summer, who is now delivering maybe more than any other attacking player.
Clutch.
Yeah, and it seems totally unfazed by the pressure. I mean, he's got a lot of grey hair, Rog, and when you've got that grey hair, you're maybe not quite as bothered by all the stresses and strains of it.
When you got any hair, Raw, you're not bothered by the stress and the strains of it. Just want to...
Even when things are going badly, you think, well, at least I've got my hair.
Yes.
No, and at that point, I think you look at it and think, okay, this is now a test for Villa. Can they hold on? You've got Arsenal who've kind of this clenched fist coming at you. They've got the momentum. Villa Park started to feel a bit nervy. And we've seen Arsenal in this situation before. They get the goal back, they go and get another one, and they hold out. It's hard enough to score once against Arsenal. Not many people do it twice.
Yeah, you got to credit Villa, though. I was really blown away. They were not daunted at all and almost lanced the pressure by starting to drive relentlessly through the middle. It was Arsenal suddenly did look vulnerable. They barely survived a couple of slow rollers across the face of their goal line. One from Maatsen, I think it was an inch away from being turned in by Timber into his own goal. And it did become a tactical battle. He had both managers kind of switching, shuffling their pieces. Madueke, Sancho, Trossard limped off as he limped on, but ultimately it felt like both teams towards that end were settling for a point. It did feel like both teams had more to lose than they had to win. But then at the death, huge move, bold move from Unai Emery, pulled off a defender, our favourite Paul Matty Cash, brought on an attacking piece, Emi Buendia, and it was rewarded. It was gobsmacking. 95th minute, it was Buendia who swooped in like a joyous little Ewok, poked it home. Lot of slop no more. Just a delirious gent. When I felt low on energy this weekend, I've watched this goal over and over because you see the players lose their minds, but you see 40,000 Villa fans just bouncing up and down in absolute mind meld with their players. The ecstasy is remarkable, but none more than Buendia, who's always tried to provide a creative spark for Villa, but he struggled with injury, struggled for playing time. Another player that was told maybe you should look for another role. He stayed, and here, slapped home, mobbed by his teammates. It was a jaw-dropping moment, Rob.
Yeah, it was incredible, and as you say, testament to Villa's fighting spirit. Testament almost to Emery's patience, that he timed that move exactly right. He knew that the game was not petering out into a draw, but they'd kind of reached a stalemate. And in that moment, most managers would be thinking, well, actually, do you know, this is a good point for us. The table's really compressed and really tight around sort of third, fourth, fifth. A draw at home to Arsenal, we'll take that, don't take any risks. And Emery just got the timing exactly right, which is testament to how much that man loves beating Arsenal. But the other thing that I really enjoyed, Roger, was just how 1980s the goal was. That is not a goal from the most glamorous lead in the world, this lead of stars and talent and money and wealth. That was down and dirty, spit and sawdust, blood and thunder English football from 1987.
It really was. It was like one of those bare knuckle brawls you used to find on YouTube that they used to do in basements, just getting two human beings who do anything for $20 to absolutely just exhaustedly try and pound each other like drunk fights.
When did you last see a goal where like 4 players were lying on the ground? It just doesn't happen.
And the reaction of the Arsenal players on the floor as the goal went in, just floundering around like a fish fighting to its down better. I mean, it made the drama just... I think you're going to ask me, when did I last watch drunk fights on YouTube? Which, maybe it was last week. Maybe it was, I don't know. Maybe it was years ago. But chief amongst the celebrators, Emi Martinez, who'd had his 8 years, really of frustration at Arsenal. And he loves every second to laugh last, as did Unai Emery. As I said at the top, proof of the John Oliver truth that spite is the rocket fuel of human motivation. He does Arsenal again, this time with the last kick of the ball. Villa's 9th win in their last 10 games. They're just 3 points behind the Gunners now in a title race for the ages. And now we begin, Raw, asking, are Aston Villa's title bona fides for real? Same question, by the way, we asked about City and Chelsea in recent weeks, leading to unfortunate events. But go for it.
Well, I was going to say, I think we have tipped every team to challenge Arsenal, except for Arsenal at some point. And they're all wrong. But the thing is, if you keep tipping them, eventually you'll be right. There is part of me, Rog, deep in my kind of shriveled soul, that would love to see a Villa title challenge. I would love it if the top 2 this season were Arsenal and Aston Villa. It would be an incredible sight because Villa are a huge club, Birmingham's a massive city, Emery's a great manager. They've got a squad of real depth, to be honest. You know, for all their complaining about not being able to strengthen as much as they would have liked, which I'm sure is true. They've got a lot of talent sitting on that bench that isn't in the team. But the Chelsea example really gives me pause. It was what, 2 weeks?
A week. It was a week ago. It was a week ago after the Arsenal game that we were all like, 10 men, fight, depth, youth.
Some idiot described it as a coming-of-age performance, Rog, for Chelsea against Arsenal, and then they go and lose at Leeds, and I think are now not in the top 4. One of the things we've got to learn a little bit, I think all of us, fans and observers, journalists, whatever, about this Premier League, and it was the same last season, is that because the teams are so evenly matched, big runs of form are much harder to put together. So it was an incredible win for Villa. I would love to see Villa go on and mount a title challenge. I'd quite like to see Aston Villa win it, to be perfectly honest. But I'm very conscious that they may well lose next week, and anything like that would look stupid. That said, their run of form is impressive. They are the form team in the league, and Emery is an excellent manager. So I think that they can certainly be looking like a Champions League push. But sustaining it over the course of a season to win the title might be a little bit too much.
That's called hedging, and I love it. The turnaround, though, for Aston Villa has been epic. I mean, again, remember, after 4 games, Aston Villa had not even scored a Premier League goal. How we laughed, how we wrote them off. After 5 games, they were winless, just 3 points. After 15 games, here we are, 3rd place. Wonder. And John McGinn talked this week quite brilliantly about the turnaround. He talked about just how devastating the mental hangover was, his words, from missing out on Champions League last season. And talking about mental hangovers, what's fascinating now is how to see the extent to which this wound, and it is a wound, impacts Arsenal mentally. They lost just for the second time this season. That's the reality. If I were an Arsenal, I'd say this was just the second time this season. But what it's done is unleash 100,000 bottle job memes. And I recently spent time with Bukayo Saka. I asked him, actually, he talked about how he hates to lose. I asked him, how long does that pain last for? And he said it actually sits with him until he gets to kick a football on the field again and play again. Champions League away to Club Brugge. Wolves, thank God, from an Arsenal perspective, I think next weekend. Arteta said post-game it was difficult to take. It was painful. We were 18 games unbeaten. The margins are so small. We have to focus on ourselves and standards today. Individual levels weren't there in some cases. We have to go again. Raw, I will say, thank God, could be much worse in the Champions League. It could be much worse in the league next weekend. And then they have Everton afterwards. Nothing to fear then. But you've got to think, yes, on one hand, just second loss of the season, but the psychic impact of that seed of doubt that has now been sowed. Oh my God, is it happening again? Of not converting great starts into great finishes, i.e. trophies. It's going to be some incredible mental knot for Arteta to grapple with.
I'm really conscious that every Arsenal result is a referendum on their title challenges. And look, we're 15 games into the season. They've been beaten twice. That's pretty good. They've lost at Anfield and they've lost at Villa Park. Those games are difficult. And teams can win the league without going unbeaten. It happens literally all of the time. There are 2 exceptions in 140 years of the league championship. You lose games. You can afford to lose in this Premier League probably 5 or 6 games over the course of the season and be fine. And if that's at Anfield and Villa Park, no problem. But the challenge that Arsenal face, you're right, Rog, is psychological. That they've come close in various different ways in the last 3 years. They've led and let it slip. They've chased and fallen short. They've kind of allowed, last season they kind of allowed Liverpool rope and just never ever managed to wind it back in. In their last 5 games, they've won 2, drawn 2, lost 1. That's not disastrous, but it is a slowing of the momentum. And the challenge for Arsenal's players is to keep their cool and their composure while that happens and to continue to pick up the points they can until they build a little bit more momentum again. And you're right, like having Wolves at home in the next Premier League game, that's good. Everton, and I say this sincerely, Roger, it will sound sarcastic, Everton are quite a good example of the challenge of this league because normally you'd say, 3 points for Arsenal, not a problem at all. But suddenly Everton have hit a bit of form. This maybe isn't a great time to play Everton. But between now and the time they actually do play Everton might have lost twice. You've got no idea. So yeah, it could well be that they go to the Hill Dickinson and that is another challenge they have to pass, or it might be a little bit more comfortable. But then you have Brighton, you've got Villa again. It's going to be a difficult month. We will find out a lot about Arsenal over the next few weeks.
I do. I think when I sat down with Mikel Arteta at the beginning of the season, the theme we really discussed was, it's hard to come second. It's actually an incredible feat, but how do you know that's not your identity? How do you persuade this set of footballers that you're not that, you're actually this? And I think this mental challenge in this moment, this is a moment where like, oh my God, we are this, we are the second, we're not like that doubt, the hello darkness, my old friend moment, persuading them, no, we're not that, we're not what we have been, we are going up, we are ascending. How that is handled and how that stays within the collective anxiety, fear, doubt, how that's left outside, the resetting of focus is going to be really, really critical to watch. I guess what I'm saying is release the pickpockets. Leeds 3, Liverpool 3. Talking about hello darkness, my old friend. Whew, let's go there. A drunk and quite destructive game that sobered up very, very, very quickly for Liverpool after the final whistle. We'll talk about the game as opposed to the game within the game, the Mo Salah burning down the house. Let's start with, first, the football. Raw, Leeds, it was just Leeds. Yes, Leeds fresh off shocking Chelsea 3-1 and probably shocking themselves even more in the process. Liverpool with Isak and a gloomy, despondent Mo Salah on the bench, and for the quite tentative opening half, neither team managed to summon a shot on target. I think the most exciting part was Dom Soboslai experimenting with his hair. You had Conor Bradley charging around, Kirkes launching shots into galaxies far, far away. And then, I don't like to overplay my hand a bit, big myself up here, but then Rory and I met at half-time, walked around the corner from our hotel to the nearby bar, the Liverpool bar, the incredible bar to be candid, the remarkable Phoenix landing, and I crap you not, Raw. Did we not walk in and Liverpool scored immediately twice.
So I think the door had not closed on us entering the bar when Hugo Ekitike put the ball past Lutus Perry. I think it was hard to tell, Rog, whether the 70 or 80 Liverpool fans in there were cheering for the goal or cheering for you. It was impossible to tell.
It was for James Horncastle.
It might have been for James Horncastle.
By the way, when Liverpool score, I want to thank everyone that felt the need and the design. I understand it and I embrace it to walk up to me and put a finger in my face. I enjoyed it. I deserved it. I don't know, just by breathing. I was sharing in the joy. This place was mobbed. There was genuinely not an inch to be the singing, the smell of breakfast that I would have loved, but there was no way we could get close to the bar. The bar was going bonkers. Ekitike, first league start in almost a month, I think, scored not just once but twice, and everything felt great again. Even though, to be candid, when he scored the second time, I have a Liverpool supporting mad for it, producer Jaleesa Castrodale. She texted me, December 6th, 23rd game of the season, and Ekitike is the first Liverpool player to score more than once in a game for the Reds in all comps. That was astonishing and kind of captures a lot of the pain of the season, Raw. But in that moment, the game was won. Leeds were dead.
Yeah, and look, the way the afternoon played out and then the evening means that this will be lost in the mist of time. But Liverpool had done really well until that point. Leeds came into that game having given Manchester City a real scare last weekend, beating Chelsea. This will be lost to quite a lot of Americans, but Leeds-Chelsea is a big game for Leeds. Leeds really hate Chelsea. It's not far off a derby. I'm sure Chelsea fans don't see it that way anymore, but Leeds fans definitely do. So that's a big occasion for Leeds. And then they'd matched Liverpool for that first half. It wasn't a great game, but this was, it was a Leeds team that were playing quite well, and Liverpool had done at that point a really professional job. They'd shut the game down in the first half, and then they'd been given a gift. And one thing that I think I said this to you in the bar, that one thing that hasn't happened to Liverpool in this horrible run of form is no one's given them a present. Sometimes you need someone to give you a present, and the first goal for Ekitike is a poor pass, I think, from Ethan Ampadu, and Liverpool take the lead, and suddenly the world kind of changes. If that had happened six weeks ago, perhaps Liverpool would be in a different position. Sometimes you need a little bit of luck to go your way. And at that point, and for the next, 10-15 minutes...
Felt amazing.
Liverpool were controlled and composed and looked like a team that was in the Champions League, playing a team that has recently been promoted from the Championship.
Yeah, I mean, I will say, in that moment, not to put the pain and the angst and the agony and the trauma of millions of Liverpool fans around the world into a selfish lens, because, it's not what I do. But I was just like, oh, thank God I'm not going to get my teeth kicked in this bar. And then Liverpool go, and I think their football tactical term is go and crap the bed. Insecure decision-making. By the way, Liverpool had this game won. They really, really did. And on a slots team, I'm old enough to remember when they were a clinical team last season who could just shut teams down. But here, they completely imploded of the mind, the soul, the heart, the football, conceded twice within 2 minutes. First, Konate slid recklessly, needlessly, almost tried intentionally when you look at it the way he raised his foot to clip substitute Nionto, when he could have just let the little Italian with Kevin Hart's physique run out of bounds. Raw. DCL, God bless him. When he went to the penalty spot, I was praying, and I'm not a religious man for him. I only saw a darkness. Thank God, I'm so happy for him. Slammed home the penalty. 3-3 starts for beautiful, beautiful Dom. But this was headless. This was unnecessary. It's Konate again, author again of Liverpool's downfall.
Yeah, it was an infuriating decision from Konate, who, as Arne Slot would say afterwards, after the game, he's been at the scene of the crime a little bit too much this season, and that is absolutely right. And it's a shame that there's not someone at the club whose job it is not to play the person who keeps giving away goals.
I know, by the way, that was some choice of words, much. Yeah, that was crazy. It's
not a great. It's really not a great thing to say from Slot. I think that's absolutely true. There have been goals that Konate has been responsible for that have been kind of understandable mistakes. Like he's misjudged the flight of the ball, and it's not to say that they're okay. It's just you think, okay, that is a player who's short of confidence, short of form. He's made an error, and you feel a little pound of sympathy. The penalty was totally stupid. It was, as you say, entirely unnecessary. In the circumstances where Liverpool were about to get quite an important 3 points, it was just totally needless. And it seemed so telegraphed. He was sliding for about 5 yards before he got to Gnonto in a situation where you did not need to make a slide tackle. I cannot in any way, 3 days on as we record, I don't understand why he did it.
2 minutes later, though, Ellen Road settings at raucous levels. It was actually, it was higher than that. It was like bloody bear pit, tiny New Jersey dancer, Brendan Harrington, another substitute, by the way. We'll get to Farker in a second, but Gnonto and Harrington, that was him. Making managerial changes of Unai Emery decision making level, saying, I don't fear them. I'm going to go for it. I tried to be cautious first off. It didn't work. I have no choice now but to go all for it. And Harrington met the moment, fine ball to Anton Stack to slam home, and it was gobsmacking again. 2-2. The goal just a stab to the heart. But I was really mesmerised in that moment. There was a quick cutaway. It was less than a second to Virgil van Dijk. His reaction in that moment. If you watch the goal again, see it, because it was kind of like a spasm. The agony, the helplessness, the synapse confusion. It's happening again, and we are powerless to stop it.
Yeah, I think we talked about the psychological challenge for Villa and for Arsenal, but for Liverpool, it's in game. It's the fact that they were on the 69th, 70th minute, they were cruising. And then by 75, it's 2-2. And I think you can see the players have this doubt that is eating away at their core. They are, you can almost see the lack of confidence playing out in real time. They know. They must have that sinking feeling.
Rory, it's unfathomable. It is doubt. But they also don't understand it. That's what, with that second goal, it was like, it's happening again. And I, who can do everything, who can repel, I can repel 10 men on my own. I've done these feats of strength. We've won things. I don't understand this.
The other thing that nobody would understand is quite how Anton Stack appeared in Liverpool's box with about 7 yards of space around him and then got the ball and took 3 or 4 touches and nobody made a tackle. I mean, that in itself is unfathomable. But yeah, for Van Dijk, there's an argument that maybe he's not taking enough responsibility. He does seem to be in a finger-pointing stage of his career. But I think for all of them more broadly, there must just be a sense of why does this keep happening to us? And I suppose, actually thinking about it, maybe the question should be why do we keep doing this? They're active in it. They're complicit in it. They're not passive victims of some exterior force. It's their fault, it's their flaws. And yeah, I think what you're seeing is kind of an existential crisis, not just as a team, but as a collection of individuals.
Yeah, I mean, football is cruel, and there would be more cruel misdirection. 10 minutes to go, Liverpool took the lead. Again, a Cody Gakpo pass found Szoboszlai after a quite stunning decoy step over from McAllister. The whole move was stunning. It was like an homage almost to great days recent past. And then Szoboszlai finished with rifle marksman precision. It felt great again, Raw. It really did. Again, Jaleesa wrote to me. She said it was like when you're nursing someone old with amnesia and they suddenly have a deeply lucid moment. The interplay building up to the goal. It was what you're capable of.
Yeah, it was a genuinely wonderful goal. A really classy piece of football. The step over from McAllister. The second good thing he's done this season. And it's, as a fan in that moment, that's what you're waiting for in a bad run of form. And Liverpool's bad run of form is now all I remember. But what you're waiting for is them to almost see in themselves again what they're capable of. And you think, if that had been the last goal of the game, if that had been the last act, this would have been an incredibly positive weekend for Liverpool. Because not only did you get the 3 points, but you managed to throw away 3 points and then get them back. You kind of redevelop that kind of mentality thing. You maybe feel a little bit like fortune is smiling on you again, that you've got away with one. That's important. And you win it through this incredibly kind of classy goal that only the very best teams can score. And that is a way of saying we are capable of hurting teams. Remember that. We have something to recommend us as well. That's not how it worked out, Rog.
By the way, the way you describe it, my first job in America was working with in a homeless shelter, doing welfare public advocacy, and their favourite movie to watch at night was Die Hard. And they loved when Hans Gruber took over the building. And I came to realise they loved it because it was like authority being dismantled and rendered impotent. And they'd always turn it off at that point. Watch it every night, just turn it off. That was the best part. We've done it. The movie's over. You wished you could leave that game with Hans Gruber in control of the building. But no, because the ref then signalled 9 minutes of extra time. And the noise in that bar, the noise in Boston, not of belief. It was of doubt,
Dread.
Yeah, fans lost their mind when that board went up, and you started to lose your mind when Liverpool started to run that ball into the corner flags after like 2 minutes of that. Now you were like, no.
It's too early. You can't, on 9 minutes of stoppage time, you can't run the ball into the corner for after 2 minutes. You're going to keep it there for 7 minutes? You keep playing, you slow the game down, you keep possession, you show that you are a football team capable of controlling a situation. I don't like running the ball into the corner at the best of times. I think it's cowardly in whatever circumstance. But in that circumstance, it looks desperate.
That's the vibe. That's the mood. That was the mindset. And trying to control games is one thing, but trying to control Ellen Road in the darkness of night is one of the most difficult things to do in football when they're chasing a lead. And it is just one of the most wondrously feral atmospheres in the entire Premier League. Leeds just, it became a torture chamber. It really did. A panic and second guessing for Liverpool. Final minutes were like watching them drown almost in a mud pit. The 96th minute, corner not dealt with, familiar agony for Liverpool this season. Tanaka swooping in, alone, unmarked, far post, crash bounced the ball into the net. It was such a smart, intelligent, lethal finish. Third result altering goal Liverpool have conceded after the 90th minute this season, which in itself is like, what? Raw. This was unfathomable.
Or was it intensely predictable, Rog? Was it intensely predictable?
It was very fathomable.
Was it the thing that was obviously going to happen as soon as Liverpool scored the third, as soon as Trinati... Of all the setbacks Liverpool have had this season, most of them have been quite complicated. Most of them you look at and you think, well, it's a bit of this and it's a bit of that and maybe it's a little bit of this. This one, and this is very rare for me to say, Ibrahim Konate owes Liverpool 2 points. Because if he does not make that tackle, Liverpool win that game. It's possible, I suppose, that Willy Gnonto could have crossed and DCL could have finished at that exact moment, but it didn't feel like that. It didn't feel like Gnonto was he wasn't racing clear to clip the ball past Alisson. He was going to try and put a cross in. Liverpool were in control. Leeds hadn't really created a chance in the second half. There hadn't been a real moment where Leeds looked like scoring. Liverpool had them at arm's length, and then Konate makes a stupid decision, and in that moment, everything changes. That's happened a little bit to Liverpool this season, but I can't think of a clearer example of a player's poor decision-making, poor choices, poor form, altering the course of a game, and given what follows, possibly the course of a season.
Let's get into it. I do want to acknowledge Slot out-coached in this one by Daniel Farke. From a Leeds perspective, this week began with Farke on... I don't even know what the technical term for how thin the ice was. He was in the mindset of where do I get the cardboard box to carry out my belongings. That was the mentality, and it ended with him facing up to Chelsea and Liverpool, taking 4 points in a stronger position than he'd been really since promotion. From a Liverpool perspective, 8 points from the last 30 on offer. We need to get into Salahgate, a.k.a. why did we give Mo his dough again? But we do need to say, Arne Slot, this shift from profound transformational leader to freak one-hit wonder, who's almost overstayed his welcome for Liverpool fans. Now, he does seem like a lost man. Just the loss of results, the loss of control of culture, the failure to conjure tactical solutions. At this point, playing favourites instead of man management. I do want to say, I remember when being a Liverpool fan used to be fun. I do remember. I remember, when Ekitike came and arrived, and we got a number of letters being like, "Who's going to get a song first, Rio or Ekitike?" Everything felt so glorious. At the end of the game at the Phoenix Landing, second it ends, I guess it's the Bar's tradition. They immediately take the sound off the game and instead pump out the glorious Jerry and the Pacemakers song, "You'll Never Walk Alone." And to be candid, I love that song because it's played at every Liverpool wedding I've ever been to. And it brings back so many happy memories. In that moment, when it kicks in, that beginning, raw, it's rarely sounded more funereal.
It's a dirge now. It is a dirge. Yeah, the Slot thing is a real test because I'd like to think that fans shouldn't be spoiled. They shouldn't be kind of greedy. And it is 6 months since he won the league title. He's got his face on the banner. He is a man who delivered a league championship to Liverpool, the 20th championship, the one that drew Liverpool level with Manchester United. I don't want to be short-termist. You shouldn't be knee-jerk. You shouldn't be like reflexive. But at this stage, and funny enough, you saying it's 8 points from 30, it's not just the results. You could just about, I think, given what he achieved last season, you could just about handle the results. But there's an awful lot of other stuff that's happening that is really difficult to swallow as a fan. And yeah, it's the fact that players are continually in the team despite the fact that they are clearly not playing well. It's the fact that the tactics keep changing to give you the impression that Slot doesn't really know what he wants to do. It's not that they're playing a 4-2-3-1 and they've got all the attacking players on the pitch and they're just seeing how it goes, because that's what they're going to make it work. They're going to impose themselves on their opponents. It's not that. He's kind of shifting around, trying to kind of happen upon a solution. There's no real faith there that he knows what it is. And then, as you say, the man management situation is a bit of an issue, to be honest. That there's even what he said about Konate. I think that's not a great look. I mean, don't get me wrong, he is completely right that Konate has been a bit too much to blame for Liverpool's goals, but it's a poor choice of words. It's selling your player out publicly. It's not supporting him. I think that's not ideal. And then, even the fact that players like Cody Gakpo are still in the team, but they're not contributing. He is chopping and changing. There's no kind of sign that he knows how to get Liverpool out of this. And I think that, as a fan, is what you want. It's the sense that the manager knows what he wants to do. I don't think the manager does know what he wants to do.
Oh, remember, Liverpool fans, when you walk through the storm, hold your head up high. And don't be afraid of the dark, because this is where we are going. Because when it felt like it could not get any worse, when the players left the field, it was just beginning raw. We now need to break down the great Liverpool civil war of 25-26. It really started 3 games ago when Mo's run of 53 straight Premier League starts very proudly littered over, I think, a year and a half. Just utterly has capsized. Mo suddenly found himself on the bench for the last 3 games. So to the post-match meltdown for the ages. First, Dom Szoboszlai stated on camera, "What's in the dressing room stays in the dressing room." And then Mo Salah immediately decided, "Not so fast, you handsome young man." Mo, a man who, remember, has 90 months remaining on his $532,000 a week contract that he signed only in April, did something that he rarely does. And I don't mean score a goal. He decided he would stop and talk in the media neutral zone. He normally just charges through, head down very fast. And he went off in the course of 7 minutes, talked with real detail about how he'd been, quote, thrown under the bus by Liverpool, how promises when he signed the new contract had been broken, and he'd been turned into a, quote, scapegoat for the defending champions meltdown. He volunteered, he wasn't asked, but he volunteered that his relationship with Arne Slot had totally broken down, and that he'd even asked his mum and dad to come to next week's game against Brighton because it might be his last at Anfield. Remember, he heads off to AFCON to play for Egypt on December the 15th. Someone doesn't want me in the club, he said, quite cryptically, hinting at a January move. This is a man making a very, very, very dark moment for the club, one in which he struggled, 5 goals, 3 assists, 19 games, all comps. A very proud man. Rightly proud at his record as the 3rd highest goal scorer in the... I'll say this honestly, it's a deeply illustrious club. He is their 3rd leading goal scorer. His contribution, his dignity, his respect... he's always very aware of those things, and he's normally very, very aware of his own leverage, deeply politically astute as a guy. Raw, to do this when the club is in freefall, when many players, so many fans are struggling, that agony, to me it does feel selfish, very selfish. I mean, you can say what he said was right or wrong. You can also separate out when he did it. They're very different things. But what was this to you? Because it was so calculated. It wasn't a rush of blood. He was smiling. He was calm in the delivery. It was planned. But to do it at a time of such heightened emotions, it was such a choice. Does it surprise you? And how do you experience it?
I don't think there's any winners from it, Rog. I think that's the key thing. You're right. He's been a substitute 3 times, and he has, after a week where he's not been a first choice player, he has come out and torched everyone and everything at Liverpool. That is a tantrum. It's a player having a tantrum. It's really hard to escape that. It's not like he's been made to train with the kids for 6 months. It's a week where he's been a substitute. I think where he will have lost a lot of fans is in saying, The slightly convoluted logic of, I'm not saying I don't have to earn my place, but I have earned my place, so I should have it. I think he'll lose fans on that, because that sounds an awful lot like you're saying you just get to be in the team, and that is not how. That isn't. It might sometimes be how it works, but it's not how it's meant to work. You're meant to earn that place every single day in training, and that's whether you're Lionel Messi or Cristiano Ronaldo or Mohamed Salah. You have to earn your place in training, in theory. You certainly shouldn't say that part publicly, but then I think he'll have a lot of sympathy with fans, because they will say, well, there's plenty of players who are also playing terribly. If his relationship with the manager has fallen apart, that is kind of on the manager, because Mohamed Salah is Liverpool's highest paid footballer and one of the greatest players who's ever played for the club, so you have to keep him happy. If you're not doing that, that is like a black mark against Arne Slot. But to me, the main two takeaways, Rog, if I was to have some hot American TV style takeaways, it would be, I think it is a power play to an extent from Salah to see if the club will back him over Slot and maybe get Slot fired. I think there is an element of that. I think it is showcasing very clearly how bad things are behind the scenes, or how bad things must be behind the scenes, if he is coming out publicly and saying this. And also I think it shows you a little bit about Salah, that maybe this man who's been cast as a very modest, a very humble superstar, that maybe that's a little bit of clever PR. You know, last season we saw him. You said just then, you know, it's not something he does often, but Mo Salah was very good at doing TV interviews last season when he wanted a new contract. That is true. He did use the television. He used the medium to help his public stance in negotiations. That happened. It's factual. His representation won't appreciate that being said, but that did happen. He is quite an astute politician. He doesn't like being disrespected, and he very clearly feels as though he should be in the team regardless. And maybe in light of that, we should kind of reconfigure how we see Salah.
No, there's a lot in this. By the way, when they talk about previous, it's not just using television, but he's done the neutral zone thing before. 2024, when he was pissed off with Jurgen Klopp, if I speak, there will be fire. I mean, that has massive effect. And we don't know quite now about what was he really trying to do. You're talking about it. Was it a goodbye? Was it a torching of the place on the way out in the most extreme fashion? Is it a power play moment? Which really brings us to flipping the perspective for a second. What do Liverpool do now? Options include sack the manager, sell Mo to the Saudis in January. There could be a world where Mo Salah stays and Arne Slot leaves. Or does Mo suddenly, you know, he is politically astute, but has he misread the leverage? Is he suddenly look like a 33-year-old winger whose only other move is to go to Al Hilal? And it is, for the first time in his Liverpool career, leverage less than ever. Today we found out that he's been dropped from the Liverpool flight for the Champions League game in Milan. We also know he leaves for AFCON on December the 15th. Those are the only two facts we know as we play. But how do you expect Liverpool to play this out?
It's difficult, as you say. Salah's played this card at a point where he's kind of at his weakest, because fundamentally he can quite rightly point to other players who were playing poorly and still in the team. But he's not been playing well. That's the truth of the matter. I suppose a lot of it depends on who he meant when he said there are people who do not want me in the club, or there is a person who does not want me in the club. That was taken largely as Slot, as he had said, our relationship is broken. So I guess there you kind of, Liverpool have the choice to make. Like, do you accept that Salah is almost speaking for the dressing room, and that in that case you do have to change the manager? Or do you think this is a player having a tantrum, in which case you back your manager, you make it clear that is not acceptable, and Salah goes in January? Maybe both.
Wouldn't it be amazing if it turns out at the end of the day the person he was referring to was Wataru Endo?
Well, the other person it could be is Richard Hughes, the sporting director. It could be that he feels that the club's recruitment in the summer has had this incredible effect where not only has it stopped Mo Salah playing well, it also means you don't get the best out of the players they've signed. They've tried to do two things and ended up doing neither, or maybe even doing kind of negative two things. So it depends whether if his battle is with Slot, then there is an easy solution. You either sell Mo or you sack Slot. If his battle is with Richard Hughes, I think ultimately there is only one winner to that, and it's not Mo Salah.
I mean, genuinely, right now there is so much we do not know, and the other big question is: could Mo Salah have actually played? This is remarkable. His last game for Liverpool, and we didn't know it at the time. Which we have to ask: does this moment, this implosion, will it be forgotten? Or does it tarnish his reality? This moment of I in team, which is really what it is. Does that sully the beauty? I say this as a horrible person, but what we've seen Mo Salah do has been transcendent consistently. The communion also, it needs to be said that Mo has experienced with the Kop. That connection was always so profound and two-way. This is a man who led the Premier League scoring 4 times, 250 goals in 420 games for Liverpool. But at the same time, Liverpool fans do not love it when a player, let's just hypothetically choose a name for purposes, let's say Trent, makes themselves bigger than the club on the way out.
No, and I think that's the really difficult thing, is that the fan base will be split between people who basically think it's Slot's fault and people who think that Salah has gone too far. And to be honest, there'll be quite a lot of people who think maybe both of those things are true, that you can think that Salah's got a point but shouldn't have done it, and you can think that Slot should be sacked and didn't deserve Salah doing that Salah doing that doesn't help. It'll be really interesting to see what happens against Brighton on Saturday. Obviously, Liverpool play Inter Milan in the Champions League in Milan. There may well be, a section of the away support that makes its views clear, either positive or negatively, on Salah. But at Anfield next Saturday, when Brighton are in town for their inevitable 3-0 win, I think it's not impossible to imagine, certainly if Liverpool are losing, that the Kop decides that it's on Mo Salah's side.
God, I gotta say, Wayne Rooney, not a Liverpool fan, it should be noted. This morning he was talking about how it will, quote, destroy Salah's legacy if it ends like this. I can't imagine it will. I mean, I have seen the goals, I have seen the glory, I have seen really the epiphany that was Mo Salah at his peak. But I've also seen this is very much who Mo Salah is. I don't believe he's really hidden any of this stuff. If you look at his arc, this is who he is. Strikers, we know, are most often selfish. They think about themselves. Mo Salah is very proud. He's made that we know that. They brood. They are moody. The goals, the football is often seen through the lens of the self. To me, these are the two sides almost of the same Mo Salah coin. You can't have one without the other, Raw. They're not separate. They are because of these that we've seen all this. And that coin was golden.
Yeah, the drive and the determination and the self-obsession, I suppose, in a positive way, that is what made him the player he was and is. But it also comes at a cost, I think. I don't think it will destroy his legacy. I think that is a knee-jerk response in the heat of the moment. Cristiano Ronaldo left Manchester United a year after he'd wanted to go, went and had the best years of his career at Real Madrid, and came back to Manchester United, and to be honest was an active hindrance to them as a football club for about a year, and then left under a cloud because he'd fallen out with, I think, 2 or 3 managers. Manchester United fans still love Cristiano Ronaldo because of what he did up to 2009. If the appearance against Sunderland in the middle of the week is Mo Salah's last for Liverpool, then it would be a bitter exit, and the fans would be, in the moment, there'd be a lot of hostility, there'd be a lot of upset, there'd be a lot of disappointment. But in time, it will not disguise what Mo Salah did for Liverpool and did at Liverpool.
Godspeed. Mo will travel to AFCON December 15th. Good news for Egypt. He can have fresh legs and most probably the purest motivation to ensure that Egypt blow away all comers on the way to glory. I will say, dude's stats post-second hair transplant. Raw, not the greatest.
No, and it's a powerful advert for not getting a hair transplant, Rog. You've made the right choice.
I always say, I've had 3 hair transplants. This is I am, baby. I had the Rooney. Baldness is truth. Off to Inter for Liverpool. Brighton at the weekend. Bring it on to Manchester City 3. Sunderland 0. That early morning Arsenal loss meant Manchester City had the chance to close the gap at the top to 2 points. Pep entered that match off the rollicking 5-4 win over Fulham midweek. Now to face 6th place Ewok Sunderland. Big change here for City. Pep inserted the quite skill-soaked young Frenchman Rayan Cherki for Tejani Reinders to complete and one mixtape tour 11 that included Cherki, Doku, Bernardo Silva, Phil Foden, and their opponents, ever plucky Sunderland. Expectations stay high, but they dug deep for 31 minutes. Resistance was really futile in this one. And after half an hour of trying to pick the lock with a bobby pin, Ruben Dias just broke out the sledgehammer, 30-yard master blaster that deflected quite cruelly off that young Prince Dan Ballard. And then 4 minutes later, Dias centre-back partner Josko Guardiola rose up to crash home a Phil Foden corner. City open play merchants FC becoming quite scarily adept at set pieces. Second half was just a really quite a warm watch. Doku and Granit Xhaka each crashed one off the post, but in the 65th minute, finest goal if you didn't see it at the weekend. It was the little French wonder who slammed the door shut with a piece of absolutely sublime Cirque du Soleil football. Cherki hoodwinking poor Trey Hummel, then after pulling down his underpants, elected to execute a Rabona assist, set up Phil Foden with a quite telepathically clinical header off the underside of the bar, which should have made it count double. 3-0. Raw, you got Cherki, mesmeric in this game, 2 assists. Pep, though, it was very interesting. After he hit the Rabona, he said, "You never see Messi do this," meaning keep things simple. But I do, watching Cherki in a game which is ever more reduced to just duels. That's where we are right now in football. To watch such an avant-garde street baller do his work, it was just absolutely ebullient.
Yeah, one of the interesting things about his move to City will be how Guardiola handles that, because Cherki, much more than Grealish or even someone like Eze, Cherki is an unapologetic individualist. That is what made him special at Lyon. It's what announced him to the world when he was 16, what has helped him become the player he is. And deep down, I don't think Guardiola likes that. Guardiola wants players who are kind of good soldiers. They do things for the system. They contribute to the collective. How he tolerates Cherki's magical streak will be really interesting to see over the course of the season. To this point, injury has maybe made that decision for him. But once Cherki's in form, does he indulge him or does he try and turn him into something else?
Track back to do your Rabonas in our own box, you bastard. That's the team flavour. By the way, Ryan, welcome to Everton next season on loan. You're going to be, utterly, you and Dibbling, it's going to be utterly magnificent. But for Sunderland, really a schooling, really a reality check. This quite fun. Freewheeling, ha ha ha! Pep, that's his like Pep. I am so funny now. His Manchester City crawl within 2 points of Arsenal, looking very, very apex predator. But we don't really know still. On one level, we should be how terrified should the rest of the league be? But it does feel week on week, City are like flipping between a club in crisis or title challenging mode. Is this just what they're going to be the whole season till they win it?
Well, I think so, and I think the test will be which of those two over the course of like every 3 games, which of those two appears more often. Because this week they had a scare against Leeds, had a ridiculous scare against Fulham, having been 5-1 up, somehow came within a whisker of throwing 2 points away. And then I think, to be honest, if I'm completely honest, I think 3 games in 1 week was too much for Sunderland. I think that was the issue they had, that for a team that has built itself on playing once a week, suddenly you have this what the Germans call an English week, where you have a midweek domestic round. I think that this was the legs had gone for Sunderland a little bit. City after that game looked like this kind of cold-headed machine, but the first 2 games of the week they looked like an insane mess. Leeds are newly promoted, Fulham aren't especially good, and they shipped 6 goals. That's not sustainable. I think City are inconsistent, but the fact that they are 2 points behind, they've sustained their form with Erling Haaland only scoring once in 5 games, that's all pretty positive.
Can I just say, Sunderland fans, that is a sign of progress, though, that 3 games in a week was too much for you. It used to be that 1 game in a week was too much for you, and how you have grown. May you rise again, because you, to me, have been the story of this first half of the season, and I love it. City play Real Madrid midweek in the Champions League in what promises to be just a magical European night, and then Palace on Sunday. We'll talk about them in 1 second. Sunderland starting to slip up a little, just 1 win in their last 5, which does not come at a great time. I think they lose 7 players to AFCON. Next up, though, Tyne and Weir derby against Newcastle at the Stadium of Light. First Premier League meeting between these 2 rivals in, I think, 9 years. If you've not seen it before, a game high on emotion. high on passion, high on exposed belly girth, very, very low on fans wearing shirts and weather-appropriate clothing. Bring it on. I just mentioned Crystal Palace. Let's talk about them next. Fulham 1, Crystal Palace 2. A game that was a stunning goal off at the beginning. First Nketiah opened the scoring in a beautiful move of football. Not one, but two just bold Adam Wharton visionary passes in the build-up. Watch this goal again. You'll see how Wharton celebrates as if he'd scored it in the moment, and he deserved to. But then Harry Wilson, man only nets bangers, scored what will no doubt be a goal of season contender. Exquisite pinging around the box in Fulham. I think that's a technical term for it, pinging, yeah. Iwobi fed Wilson on the edge of the area. He slapped it off to Jimenez, returned the favour with Vulcan mind meld to a charging Wilson, who let the ball run past him, and with instinct and just profound artfulness. That's the only way I can describe it. It's like watching Magritte paint a bloody picture in real time, the way he elected to flash a shot first time with the outside of his left boot raw. It just spiralled away from the goalkeeper, a quite stunned Dean Henderson. It was like Dean Henderson was just a deep appreciator of art and didn't even want to move as it flew past him into the far corner. Stunning. Which goal did you prefer? Because you could actually make the case when you watch the collective play. They were both immense.
Yeah, both incredible goals. I would say Wilson's, but partly because I'm very well disposed towards a player whose specialty is scoring spectacular goals. I think that's an underrated speciality.
I'm only there for the bangers.
Exactly. It's quite an important role in English football history. There's always been one or two in the division who, every time you see, kind of, if you're following the game without watching it, every time you see that their name is under the team as a scorer, you know it is a good goal. Nico Kranjčar at Tottenham always filled that role. That was a good goal. Patrick Berger, particularly at Portsmouth later in his career, you knew he only scored good goals, and Harry Wilson is the 2025 version of that.
It's so bloody. We once interviewed Sam Kerr, the great now Chelsea goal machine, and we asked her what goal gave her the most satisfaction to score. She said a tap-in. Harry Wilson is like the opposite of that. He don't do the
not
tap-ins.
Interested. Just not interested in tap-ins.
Nah, those are for the others. He'll leave those for Sam Kerr. Harry Wilson is on just a steady diet of banger, banger, banger. Palace won it late, third straight win at Craven Cottage off a Gahey header from a set piece. In Crystal Palace, 5 away wins, best away record in the Premier League, 4th bloody place. Incredible to experience, incredible to watch, incredible to revel in. This time last season, they were 17th place. And now, Oliver Glasner ball. Who cares about possession? Organised, robust, teamwork, ferocious, poised to strike in key moments like some kind of footballing mongoose or something like that. There is no doubt to me that if British Football awarded a Team of the Year trophy, Palace would get it. But with every single media outlet in the tabloid space spilling just oodles of ink, gallons on the rumour mill about Gahey, about Adam Wharton, but even Glasner. Can they finish what they started? Well,
Mateta as well. Mateta's contract is up for negotiation, and it's whether he decides to stay or whether he thinks this is his opportunity to go and kind of sign a life-altering deal, one of the major traditional elite. I think there's a real risk that it does all sort of fall apart maybe at the end of the season. But I've got to say, at this stage, if you're any of those people, you'd want to make sure you're getting a really, really good offer, not just financially. You'd want to make sure that you're going to a team that is upwardly mobile. Because if you're Mark Gay, there's suggestions that Liverpool might move for him in January, and that obviously works for Liverpool. Does it work for Mark Gay? I'm not sure it does, to be perfectly honest. I'd be inclined to stay at Palace. Same with Glasner. If you're not going to stay at Crystal Palace, and he's obviously frustrated with the kind of the limitations of the club's transfer budget and the club's transfer strategy, I get that. But you want to make sure you know where your offer's coming from. Because if you're not going to get a club that, we've seen with Thomas Frank say, that a club that is going to support you long term to fulfil your talent, maybe Crystal Palace isn't such a bad place to be.
Yeah, you saw when he scored just the joy, the wonder. Like, that was a player that was very brought into this team in this moment, as opposed to welcome to the crime scene of Liverpool Football Club, Mark. You too can be shouted at. Like Milos Kerkez when everything goes crap up. But let's stay on the happiness tip with Tottenham Hotspur 2, Brentford 0 in the Thomas Frank Classico. Spurs frown turned upside down. A tricky clash going into this. Was almost like hot must win. The beleaguered was the adjective for Thomas Frank going into this one. But here he had to face his own mob. bit like a Danish Benedict Arnold. Frank Spurs had just one home win all season, first day of the season at John No 9761, captured the quite odd feel of this game in our Discord by saying Spurs are the first club I've ever seen where the fans hate watching the players play and the players hate playing in front of the fans. And at Ambrose Martos 6408 said, try watching the New York Jets sometime, which I just love. But luckily, Brentford are the opposite of the Spurs. Great at home, blunt on the road. But it still felt like, wow, the oddest thing just happened. Went on 25 minutes. Xavi Simons in behind. Did something good. Played in Richarlison to lash home. And the shots at the Spurs fans in that moment, Raw, I don't know if you saw this game. But like, the look of confusion on their faces in their own stadium. Like, this was like, they were like, why is this a home game? We'd come to boo. And instead we go, what's the word again? What is it? Cheer. God, it was a surreally beautiful moment.
Well, not least because when did Richarlison start scoring goals again? This now appears to be a thing he can do. I'm not sure that might be the greatest turnaround of the Premier League season, that Richarlison, that meaningless lob against Arsenal appears to have kind of reminded him that he's meant to score goals. Because all of a sudden he's a machine.
Yeah, to tack on the extra millions to the inevitable move back to Everton. We still love you, Richie. It was a goal that was born of Thomas Frank ball ideologically. And yes, Thomas Frank did celebrate the goal against his old team because managers and players, different rules. But then suddenly Xavi Simons picks up the ball and in a moment that was really as redemptive as Paul Dano rebutting Quentin Tarantino's criticism, he ran up the gut, held up the defenders, rolled home deliriously. Spurs 2-0 up, really stabbing a finger in the eye of the haters, the faders, the naysayers. First Premier League goal for Simons. That must have felt amazing for him. And it must have felt even more so for Tottenham. Thomas Frank must have been like, God, can we play Brentford every week? They're terrible. Victory in the league for the first time in 6 games. Even Vicario, booed after his mistake last week, was given a huge cheer before kickoff. We were in the upside down. Felt like the end of days. Remember, Spurs fans, the old Ralph Waldo Emerson quote, for every minute you are angry, you lose 60 seconds of happiness. Tottenham play Slavia Praha in Champions League. Then they're off to Nottingham Forest. Raw, this can continue, can't it?
It can. Spurs have been better on the road than at home this season, so they'll be quite looking forward to going to Forest, to be honest, who are, as I'm sure we will discuss, not in their best moment. But the key in this Premier League season, Roger, is you've got to put results together. You know, we've seen with Palace, I think they've lost 1 in 6. They win 2 in a row, and all of a sudden they're 4th. There is no reason that can't be Tottenham, but you have to go back to back with wins, and it transforms your outlook for the season.
Oh, talking about transformed outlooks, Bournemouth 0, Chelsea 0. My beautiful, beautiful Bournemouth. I remember before this tailspin of just 1 point in 5 games, you have fallen from 2nd to 14th before this one. I loved Iraola, by the way, this week. He was asked if his team are pushing for Europe or fighting relegation, and he just said, yeah, a bit of both. That is this Premier League this moment. Chelsea stumbled in. Quite a confusing week for them. They followed their best performances in Eon. They beat Barcelona, fought Arsenal with 10 men, and then fold limply against Leeds bloody United. This felt like a chance to reset or define almost their truth. And few things are truth here. Done a return of Cole Palmer, the last door fighter, back for his first start since September. This was like really just a battle of 2 cold attacks. Evan Nielsen, Junior Krupe have gone blunt. For Chelsea, Liam Delap hurt his shoulder, back on the injury list. His start to life at Chelsea has just, screamed loan to Everton by the end of the season. But quietly, João Pedro has just fallen below the waterline. Last 15 games for Chelsea, I think he's mustered just 13 shots total, Raw. 5 of those were against Spurs. There were 2 shots scattered against 6 games. But ultimately not losing, probably winning for both teams within their narrative. I do remember when, well, it was 7 days ago, so thank God I remember Chelsea. We were lauding their title challenging. But poor Enzo, I don't think he knows what has changed. Talking about Chelsea's ability to maintain their quality when he has to dip into the squad. He does not like to do that. These extremes of performance, is that just the Chelsea way? The only predictable is the unpredictable. I
think it's partly endemic to the Chelsea model that that there is a little bit of variety when you've got all those options, and Maresca doesn't have a kind of... There's the temptation to change things because you've got the options available, so you change things and maybe it doesn't kind of work. It costs you a little bit of like understanding or momentum or something. But to be honest, and this will be something I suspect that we will repeat over the course of the season, Rog, I think it kind of depends on who you're playing. You know, Chelsea at home to Arsenal are really up for it. Chelsea away to Leeds, and as we said earlier, Ellen Road's a bear pit. They really hate Chelsea. That is a derby for Leeds. They didn't have the kind of the gumption to cope with it. And then you go to Bournemouth, and Bournemouth are in a bad run of form. They have slumped a little bit, but they are also a really good team. So I guess if you look at, I think this is the case across the Premier League, that a lot of teams will have runs where they win one, draw one, lose one. And Chelsea maybe aren't quite out of that pack yet. They're not ready to rise out of the pack in maybe the way we thought they were.
Chaos season, and I'm here for it. In other games, West Ham 1, Brighton 1. Both teams really exchanged a late goal from a cute angle dance-off. Bowen first, and then Ruta tied it up in the 91st minute. West Ham still in the relegation zone, but just 2 points behind Leeds and Forest. Games against Aston Villa and Man City to come now. It's tight down there in the annals of the league. It is tight. Newcastle 2, Burnley 1. A game which took place in the very week that David Hopkinson, Newcastle's new chief executive, he came from Madison Square Garden and dropped the hype, saying that his team will be one of the biggest clubs in world football in 5 years' time. Bold timing, because they're not even the best team in Tyne and Wear region right now. And in this game, they almost coughed up a 2-0 lead against 10-men Burnley, a team who'd lost 5 straight. First, Guimaraes beat his old keeper Dubravka with an Olympico. 20th scored straight from a corner in Premier League history. Burnley went down to 10 men. An Anthony Gordon penalty felt like it had killed off the game. But Burnley, they don't win, but bloody hell they fight. They got a penalty of their own in the 94th and were a Josh Laurent hair's breadth away from an equaliser with the last touch of the ball. He got the mechanics all wrong with the goal utterly gaping. Newcastle had the boon of Wieser making a quite sprightly substitute debut. They have Leverkusen in the Champions League, and then to that derby against Sunderland. Just 1 point between the two of them at the moment. Raw. I mean, this is the first Sunderland-Newcastle derby in 9 long years. Can you just take a quick second? It is a special game. Can you articulate just the feel, the smell of the game, as Martin Tyler calls it? Because it's different.
Yeah, I remember 10 years ago, on the occasion of the Tyne Wear derby, a Newcastle fan punched a police horse. So...
You're talking about Barry Rogerson.
So that kind of sums it up, I think.
He was jailed for 12 months. He put 2013. After the game, I think Sunderland had won it, was it 3-0? He was so inebriated and so angry, and I think so deeply, off his head. This is a famous moment. And the police horse was called Bud, and there's an incredible photo of Barry Rogerson punching Bud in the face. I do want to add, for all of you animal lovers, and we're all animal lovers on this show, Raw, Bud was unharmed.
Yeah, I mean, Bud. It was a traumatic experience for Bud, but Bud was fine. I don't know whether Bud is still alive.
But I can update you. I do know the Bud story. I was kind of obsessed at this moment, Raw. It's one of my, it does define the everything. Bud later retired, totally healthy. There's a report on him where it says Bud lived a good life and then passed away in 2020. To Bud's memory, Raw.
To Bud, absolutely. The the reason that incident became so famous is because it sums up the passion of the Tyne Wear derby, how angry it makes whichever side that loses. It's one of the great fixtures of English football. It's one of those games that kind of illuminates the Premier League season when it's in the Premier League or in the Championship. There is genuine animosity between the clubs. It's not been diluted like a lot of modern derbies. It's still very pure, as it always was. It will be a real occasion.
It always felt so magnificent because the two teams were always, in the modern period, have been mostly mid when they played each other. And it was just a reminder that your misery for losing actually outweighs any kind of happiness I want to have through my own club, which is just such a finely and fantastically petty and wonderfully spite-filled way to approach life. Dear young listeners, be like Newcastle and Sunderland fans. And that's what I'm saying. Manchester United travel to Wolves 3 p.m. this afternoon. Wolves team who's 2 points or less than any other side across Europe's top 5 leagues. Also have the worst goal difference, minus 22. I'll just say Ruben Amorim has a chance to do something very, very funny if he wants. But talking about very funny, Everton 3. Whoa! Nottingham Forest 0. Roy, is this the real life? Is this just fantasy? I still don't know if this happened.
It's incredible. An incredible performance from Everton. A real kind of statement of intent, Rog. They're Champions League challengers.
Yeah, now you're trying to set me up to knock me down. More just beating Sean Dyche. I got to say that, who returned like bad dad. It was like watching Jack Torrance at the Overlook Hotel. Just kind of come back like, oh, not him again. Everton Football Club, man. I don't know who we are anymore. I've got to say, I tune in with joy. I don't hate watch. It's like, so we're first Jack Grealish drew a yellow card, I think from Savona on like 23 seconds for reals. And 82 seconds in, Kieran Dewsbury Hall. That man, cut back. Just an incredible turn on the flanks, lashed in across. Milinkovic headed home. We do not fear the life truth that you should never score too early anymore. Also this, Everton have not lost a game in which they opened the scoring this season. These are crazy realities. Who are we? We got a second, and it was humanly beautiful to watch. Young Tierno Barry finally scoring his first Premier League goal. This is the kid who's tried, failed, struggled horribly at the beginning, gave his all though, won over the fans with his hustle. Had a goal he thought last week, it was VAR'd off, and he almost cried when it was VAR'd off. Q Saturday, 15th game of the season, finally got what he toiled for. First Premier League goal in his career. By the way, Ilian Dye, the way he served it up on the plate, that is him. So generous. And then he celebrated with his teammates, with his fans, with the joy really of a giant kid on the schoolyard. That kind of naive joy. Remind you of the Snoopy line. Charles Schultz, the creator, once said, happiness is a warm puppy. That was a warm puppy, and may it be the first of 1,000 Everton goals from that warm puppy. Raw, it is probably peak Everton, I realised in this moment, to celebrate a random goal and to dance as if you just scored the late winner in the Champions League final. You've got to maximise the moments of fleeting joy in life, right?
But also, this is what football's about, Roger. It's about bonding to players, and it's one of those things that I think is always lost in the hullabaloo of the summer transfer market in particular, is you build relationships with players. You become invested in their journeys. And yeah, Tierno Barry has clearly won over the Everton fans just with his kind of demeanour, his energy, his enthusiasm, his determination to succeed. Some goals are more special than others. And his first one for the club after that long wait is a moment that deserves to be commemorated.
As does the play of Kieran Dewsbury Hall, who got his now contractually obliged goal late. 3 goals, 1 assist in his last 5 games. He said something beautiful after the game. He said he's feeling the best he's ever felt. We love him. He clearly loves us. The Hill Dickinson rocking. And Everton temporarily went 5th. We're now 6th. But Raw, I do need to ask you the question I said at the top. Are Everton the only team in football who go 5th? And no one is asking, is there Champions League challenge for real? Everyone's just like, oh, nah, bless, that's nice.
Well, as we said on the stage, I think, in Boston, like they're the only club where they win, and the immediate reaction, the win to go 5th, and the immediate reaction from the entire footballing world is just, well, that won't last.
Yeah.
There's a real sense of kind of, this is... I mean, Sunderland maybe Sunderland could get into the Champions League, but Everton, no, not a chance.
Everyone's just like patting me on the head like, oh, that's cute. Well,
that's nice.
That must be nice for you, little man.
Just wait until the true powerhouses of English football, Crystal Palace and Brighton, when they get their act together, they'll overtake them. I think the Premier League, as I say, and I realise I'm repeating myself, but it's so chaotic, it's so evenly balanced, that you forget that when did Everton lose to Newcastle?
Every time we've ever played them.
So, a 4-1 defeat at the Hill Dickinson not that long ago. The Premier League is chaos, Rog.
It is, and we beat Crystal Palace. I still can't work out how did we defeat the mighty Crystal Palace. Chelsea, then Arsenal up next for the Blues. Let's choose life while we can, yeah. By the way, big love to Everton women who broke Chelsea's 585-day Women's Super League unbeaten streak. Everything is coming up blue. It's time for my favourite part of the show, where we read a letter from a GFOP. But first, don't miss this exclusive limited time ticket offer. Bank of America has teamed up with Visa to offer new Bank of America cash rewards cardholders a chance to purchase up to 2 FIFA World Cup 2026 tickets. Get the details at bankofamerica.com/card FWC26. And a reminder today, in time for the holidays, get your official Soccer's Coming Home collection of merch on shop.meninblazers.com. Raw, let's finish off the best way with a letter from our bulging mailbag. Write us at meninblazers@gmail.com. From GFOP, Lindsay Whitlow. Raw, do the honours.
Hello, Rog and Rory. I seek your wisdom as a listener to your podcast who's never written before. By way of introduction, for my job I teach biology. But more importantly, maybe don't tell your employers that, I am a recreational youth soccer coach. Every new season and team brings the challenges and joys that generally come with getting to know the players, helping them do their best, celebrating the wins and handling the losses. And each season typically comes with a little of each. This year, though, our team is losing regularly and quite badly. Potential reasons vary, could be the coaching, but could include that the team is playing its first season 11 against 11 on full-size fields, or the absurd variety of sizes among 12-year-olds. This sounds like Arne Slot. The problem is that
the absurd variety of sizes amongst 28-year-olds.
You have to remember my players are all very different sizes. My question for you is, how can players lose in a healthy way? Losing every once in a while is part of the game, of course, but I must admit I'm currently struggling a bit and would appreciate your thoughts. I wondered if all of your experiences among professional players might provide some thoughts on how they keep it up, turn the page, or whatever they do after a tough loss. There are clearly some very talented players who do not play for the top clubs, and as we see each week in the Premier League, they don't always win. What could our young players learn from these pros for how to best handle losing? I truly look forward to your new episodes each week as a small way to escape all that's swirling around these days, and appreciate all your insights, humour and the magical way you both seem to combine the two when discussing the beautiful game. Thanks for your thoughts. Courage indeed.
Oh, Raw, that is a beautiful letter, Coach Lindsay. I feel like we need to step up in this moment, Raw, because I'm worried one of Lindsay's players is going to stop on the way out in the neutral zone and just throw Lindsay under the bus. So, we better deliver.
We have to deliver.
Coach.
I think the best way to handle defeat is by blaming all of your teammates and saying that it's not anything to do with you. That is the way that professional players seem to handle defeat.
Or pick one and just scapegoat them. Just pick one of the kids, any of them, and just be like,
just say it's their fault. It's their fault.
Yeah.
Your team needs to find its Canate.
Too many moments at the crime scene for you, Stephen, the young 11-year-old.
Reading Lindsay's letter, it did occur to me that actually the fact that professional players absorb defeat every week or every couple of weeks is actually quite a potent example for kids. I mean, we have the team that I help coach has a sort of similar issue at the moment in that I think we are not quite as tactically well prepared as the other 8-year-olds, and so they've started to lose more than they win. And I'm worried a little bit about how we kind of A, turn it around, and B, teach the kids that you seek positives even among the negatives. And I think that professionals do provide quite a powerful example. That the way they deal with it varies from person to person. Some use it as fuel. Some will say, I want to go out and prove that whatever happened last week won't happen again. And I think that has some value. But a lot of them accept it as something that can happen. They are one thing that players are incredibly good at, I think, is handling disappointment. If you think about how gutted you must be to lose a Champions League final, to lose a World Cup final, how the level of sadness and disappointment, but they are then able to kind of dust themselves off. It can take some time, but to go again. And that is quite a powerful example. If you speak to athletes who play sport at really high levels, the one thing that separates the true greats, I think, is an ability basically just not to notice if they lose.
Yeah, tenacity is the quality ultimately that I think. I talked about it on stage on Saturday. Arsene Wenger, when I asked him what separates greatness from goodness, he said tenacity. Every player is really, really good, but it's the tenacity to absorb defeat. I'll say, Lindsay, to be candid, it is hard watching kids play. That switch to the big field is an incredible moment where they can lose themselves. And the fact that 12, as all the bodies are changing or beginning to change, some players are men. at 12. Some players are still just kids. And it makes football the joke at that moment. It really, really, really does. I'd say two things to you. First is, I once interviewed one of the head coaches of La Masia, Barcelona's famed youth academy, and he was laughing at how we train kids in America. He said, at your level, and your level, Lindsay, winning does not matter at all. What matters is individual development of the players. He said in America, he's seen youth soccer, and every team is obsessed with winning. But it's utterly irrelevant at the age you're coaching. What matters is the development of the skill and the fun the kids are having. Those two things are all that bloody matter. To win age 12, this is my memory of what he said to me. He said, you just throw big kids on. That's what we do in America, by the way. Throw on the big kids, let them mow down everyone. And his point was, Messi, Iniesta, and Xavi would never have developed if they grew up in America. They'd just be absolutely just knocked over, flattened by big kids who had chest hair and beards already. So there is that. But more than anything, if you want to listen to anything to play your kids, Noah Conn, my friend, said it on Saturday night, live on stage in Boston. He loves football. He loved playing football a lot as a kid, and he failed a lot. Didn't make the team towards the end, on the bench with his number 9. Had to watch like Mo Salah. And he said quite beautifully, I want to put the quote up on our Instagram. He said the failures of the football field were the greatest drivers of his success in real life. So think about that. They allowed him to develop that ability to persevere and grind and fight, which we all have to do. Losing is amazing because in life we do not win all the time. We do also lose. And being successful, I mean, to Kipling on you, is to meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two imposters just the same. So don't be afraid. Email me your details about the team and I will send you a pump-up speech for the next game, Lindsay. So let's get that done now.
Do you know what, Rog? You're absolutely right. As I say, our team has lost a few games recently, or more than we normally would. And what's amazing is the coaches and the parents are really kind of, oh, that's annoying, isn't it? You know, we should have done this better, we should have done that better. The kids don't care. If the kids have scored, if they've scored one goal, if the team has scored one goal, they're happy. That's all they want to do is enjoy it. And I think remembering is, and I certainly fail at this quite a lot, remembering that they are there to enjoy themselves. That as long as they're having fun, that's all that matters. And they're developing, that's all you need to do.
I will say I coached once and once only. When my kid was 6, Samson, he was really into football. He went to a new school where there was no sports, and all the dads were laughing that one of the dads would be an idiot enough to try and create a football team. I don't know why, because it's so not me. By the end of the year, I had created a football team, had Samson, and his best mate was also very good at football. They played an under-6 league at Chelsea Piers in Manhattan. I didn't know when I entered, this place was like the Thunderdome. I mean, there were really good footballers. They got mowed down week after week. They got absolutely obliterated. One of them now plays. One of those kids who destroyed my son's team, Justin Hack, now plays professionally for NYCFC. I had him live on stage in New York a couple of weeks ago and loved it. But like, they lost every game. They barely scored. The parents were losing their minds. They had like parent meetings with me, like devastated. And then the final game of the season, we won 1-0. Still a miracle. My worst kid actually scored the goal, or had my son actually blast it off his face and it went in. And that's what they remember. The end of the season party was delirious. All that losing, all that pain, the parents losing their minds, and the kids had the single greatest time. And I've never coached again. That's it for today. I am back on Wednesday with the incredible Tommy Fleetwood. Yes, is my guest. I've wanted to come on forever. We go deep on the Ryder Cup, his love of football, and Everton in particular. It's a beautiful, beautiful conversation. Still buzzing. Then post-game, after the Champions League clash between City and Real Madrid, I will go live on YouTube with the King of Horn, mighty James Horncastle at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Come and have a beer with James and me. Raw. Until then, get home safe, you mighty king. Go and take your mid-Atlantic, quasi-American accent home with you to your family, man.
They will not let me talk with a transatlantic accent for more than about 15 minutes. I don't think I have to go home and deliver presents, Rog. I've been away for a week. They expect presents at all time, despite the fact that it's nearly Christmas. But I will see you very soon, I think, on the other side of the Atlantic.
God, that is cryptic and wonderful. And I'm trying to God bless. Next week, Raw. Double dose of Rog, home and away. Yeah, we're playing it's the away leg. Big love, listeners. Let's not take a second of watching football together for granted. And courage.